Welcome to another edition of Dungeons and Social Distancing with Nerdarchy.
Today we explore the topic of Rule Zero for Dungeons and Dragons. Welcome to Nerdarchy. For nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and as usual, I'm hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchist Ted.
If you want to keep those D&D tips flowing through your feed, make sure you hit that subscribe button.
You also want to hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single Nerdarchy video.
So we're back at it. We're back at our Dungeons and Social Distancing. If you're seeing this video and you haven't seen one of our videos in a while, you might notice that this is not the normal format. You know, while we're dealing with the pandemic, we are observing best practices and we want to stay safe and we want you to stay safe as well. So once this all blows over and is done, we will go back to our normal way of filming. Until then, we're just doing the best that we can. So with that, let's jump into our video. And of course, we have a sponsor for this video.
Sponsor is going to be Campfire Technologies. You want to talk about that, Dave?
Sure. Campfire Technologies is a great piece of software that has been developed for authors and world builders alike. It's a great tool. You can use it to build timelines, encyclopedias, character profiles. There's so much you can do on there. You can build flowcharts, you can insert maps. It just helps you flesh out your world, build your story, and have it neatly organized all in one place so that the details don't get lost.
I'm not the best at organization, so Campfire Technologies offers a lot of cool resources and tools that are going to help actually keep things organized in a way that's logical and that makes sense. So we would definitely recommend checking out Campfire Technologies. Link is going to be down in the description.
And if you're worried about the cost, don't, because there is a 10-day free trial. But after that, there is another 10-day money-back guarantee. So for a whopping 20 days, you can check out Campfire Technologies and see if it's the right software for you. So with that, let's jump into our video.
All right, so today we're talking about Rule Zero, as you kind of pointed out. So we're actually going to jump into the DMG and read a very specific passage from page 4. So it says, the D&D rules help you and other players have a good time, but the rules aren't in charge. You're the DM, and you are in charge of the game. So that comes down to, that specific rule of the DM is in charge of the game, more so than the actual rules.
Yes, playing 5e D&D is more about rulings than it is rules, compared to some earlier editions where 3rd and 4th, they really did an excellent job of codifying the game and the rules, which comes with its own particular baggage. And you're going to get a lot more people arguing over the rules when they're set in stone like that. But in earlier editions, like 1st and 2nd, and now in 5th edition, it is more about how the DM rules at the table. It doesn't mean that we're going to throw out all the rules and the DM can just make them up as they go. It does open things up in the sense that the players know to look to the DM and go with the ruling, or that at least they should. And we also will get into if you disagree with your DM later in this video. But right now we're just going to talk about why is Rule Zero important.
All right, well, this is a fantastic thing because in previous editions, I don't know what everyone else's experiences are. My general experience has been, that GM screen, it's not so much a battle line where it's like, winner takes all, but there was definitely, the GM was separate. He was telling a story. He was there to challenge the players, but he didn't necessarily, or he or she, I should say, did not feel like, they were a fellow player at the game. The rules themselves set up that difference. Well, now the rules specifically say the GM is a fellow player at the table. This is a cooperative storytelling game. And the idea now is really presented as it is supposed to be fun for everyone. Now, does that mean the players at the table should bend to the DM's will because, well, I need to have fun in order for that to happen? I need to slaughter players. No, it says in there, you're not out to slaughter the players. Well, does that mean the players should, be able to raise up in arms because they're not getting enough loot? No, because the DM has the caveat to say, what is the expectations of the game? And we should have everybody on the same table and tell a story together and all have fun. So as long as everyone can be on the same page, as long as everyone is willing to partake in the story, everybody is going to have fun.
It really comes across to me that makes Rule Zero so important and that everyone at the table kind of understands it and acknowledges it is because it keeps disputes from happening during the game. It keeps disruption from happening during the game. And it also keeps the game from losing immersion, which all these are really important when you're trying to play an RPG or role-playing game. So as long as you have that context that regardless of what the rules actually say, the DM at the table is the final arbitrator, then you just keep playing and go with the rulings. I mean, let's face it, the GM is kind of the most important player at the game because you can't play without them. And they're your portal into the world of Dungeons and Dragons, right? They let you know what your senses are telling you. They let you know how reality is shaped. So you need that to happen in order for you, the player, to engage with the game. It's not the end all to be all, because we can also discuss how Rule Zero can go horribly wrong and the consequences of that.
And that's absolutely true. When you have a DM who puts themselves into this position of power, they have got this authority of, okay, well, I can change the rules. I can do what I want. And they can put people in positions that they're not happy with, that they're uncomfortable with. They can put forth elements that the players don't want to engage with. All of these things make for players who don't want to return to the table. It makes for, uncomfortable scenarios where players might actually be legitimately suffering at the table because it could be affecting them physically or mentally based on, what things are being said or done.
That's why Rule Zero works best when you incorporate social contracts and session zeros into your game so everyone knows the expectations. If you're the GM and you want to use Rule Zero liberally, your players need to know that. If you're making a lot of changes to the game that they're used to, they need to know what those changes are and what they can expect from your game. The consequences of being an authoritarian DM is that you may find that you don't have any players anymore because they go to another table and they don't want to play with you anymore. And that is why when you lose respect for Rule Zero as the DM, that's what you can expect. That's the consequence. Uncle Ben said it best: with great power comes great responsibility. And it's never been truer for a dungeon master, right? It's okay to use Rule Zero and take charge of the game, but it's not okay to abuse it and abuse your players. And you must try to remember that this is a cooperative game for everybody. So everybody needs to have fun when they're playing. The players, the DM, you're all players. You just have different roles that you play during the game. So if everyone can respect those and come together and establish boundaries beforehand, maybe even you decide you need to use safety tools in your game, you can probably do a YouTube search and find out what they are. They might be helpful. But that session zero, that social contract, that's going to bind it all together so that you can have a good experience at the table, so that Rule Zero actually becomes an asset to the table, not a hindrance or a liability or a bludgeon to use against your players.
I completely agree. When Dave says that, it breaks immersion, Rule Zero is designed so that you can expedite those questions and get back to the story. If you have an issue with a rules calling, you've got the ability to bring it up post game. Like, oh, I didn't really like that. Unless it literally resulted in character death that you didn't think should have happened. Like, you can always revisit the scenario, after the game is over. Just allow things to progress. If you're the GM, you really should be stepping up. And, if you don't know a rule, okay, use your best judgment, make a calling for now, get back to the story, and then have that thing looked up. If it's a player having a question, all right, make a call for now, have that player look up what their character really can do, and have a note sheet so that they know what it is for next time, rather than having to take the time to, stop the flow of the game, go and look up a rule. Immersion is so important, and the story is important. Every time you break away from that heart of the game, players can get out of character, people can lose the focus of the story. Oh, where were we? And then you have to figure out where things were. And, someone who was very much into the motion of it might wind up, losing that connectivity. And that makes it harder to get back there if they're very much into that. So definitely, take all of this in, use it to the best of your ability, and strengthen your group because of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Nothing breaks immersion more than fights at the table through rules lawyering or otherwise. That's why sometimes it's just best to make the ruling, check it out later. And the most important thing is the DM is just try to be consistent in your rulings, so that they're not all over the spectrum when you make them. That's just going to confuse players, and they're not going to understand, what to expect.
Consistent and fair, I would say. You definitely, you are a fellow player. While you are looking to challenge them, you are also, a part of the story, and hopefully you're wanting them to succeed through challenges and through this adventure and story.
Yeah, one of the best things that I've heard, and I don't know for sure, the exact phrasing, so I'm going to be paraphrasing, is challenging and putting forth obstacles for your players while secretly rooting for their success. I think that's like a good hallmark of a DM.
I can't agree more. So if you want more rules discussions, then you might want to check out 3 optional rules for 5th edition D&D discussions.
If you want to chat with us live on Patreon, we do weekly live chats for the patrons only.
That's not all. We also create monthly 5e content for players and DMs alike, have monthly giveaways that our patrons are automatically entered into, and more.
So until next time, stay nerdy.